I should have known the moment my sister, Alina, called me at 10:47 p.m. that nothing good was coming. She only called late at night for two reasons. Someone in the family had done something unbelievable. She needed something from me. This time it was both. My phone buzzed aggressively on the nightstand, dragging me out of the soft cocoon of my freshly washed sheets. I stared at the caller, ID glowing in the dark. Alina. Of course. I answered with a hesitant, "Hello." Her voice slammed through the speaker, frantic and filled with the kind of stress she reserved only for situations she created herself. "Lena! Finally! I've been calling you for, forever." I blinked at the screen. She had called once. "What happened?" I asked, pushing myself upright, heart already bracing for drama. She inhaled sharply. "Okay, don't freak out, but I need you to babysit the kids on Sunday." That was not a request. It was an assignment. I rubbed my forehead. "Alina, I already told you, I'm working this weekend. I have deadlines." "Well, cancel them," she snapped. "You know we have a family dinner. I can't watch 4 kids while hosting 20 people." There it was. The famous Alina logic, where her choices magically became my responsibilities. I tried to keep my voice even. "Alina, I can come to the dinner, but I can't babysit." The silence that followed was thick and dangerous, like the moment before a glass shatters. "Lena," she said slowly, voice dipping into that familiar, entitled tone, "if you're not going to babysit 4 kids, then don't even come." My breath stopped. For a moment, I just sat there, stunned. Not because of the words, she had said worse, but because of how easily they came out. How casually she threw my existence away the moment I stopped being convenient. "You're banning me?" I whispered. She scoffed. "Oh, please. No one is banning you. You're choosing this. You know I need help." "No," I said quietly. "You want free childcare. That's different." "Wow," she hissed. "So selfish. You know, Mom and Dad were right about you." My stomach dropped. "What does that mean?" She ignored the question, classic strategy. Instead, she went straight for emotional blackmail. "I guess I'll just tell everyone why you aren't coming. I'll tell them you don't care about family." I closed my eyes. I could already imagine the group chat blowing up. Mom defending Alina. Dad pretending to be neutral by siding with her anyway. The cousin staying silent. And me, the convenient, unmarried, child-free sister, painted as the villain for refusing unpaid labor. "Alina," I began, voice trembling with a mixture of disbelief and exhaustion. "I am not your nanny." "Oh my God, stop making everything dramatic," she shrieked. "I have 4 kids. You have none. You're free. Why can't you just do this one thing for me?" Because it's never one thing. Because it's every holiday, every visit, every gathering where I go from sister to serve at the moment I walk through the door. But saying that out loud would only invite another storm. So I said the one thing she never expected. "No." The silence on the phone was so sharp, I could hear her inhale like she was about to explode. "You know what?" she finally spat. "Don't come. Seriously. Don't bother. I don't want selfish people ruining the dinner." She hung up, and suddenly, my room felt colder, like she had taken all the warmth with her. I stared at the ceiling, my heart beating too fast and too heavy. It wasn't just about babysitting. It was about the years of being treated like the backup parent, the default helper, the extra pair of hands she assumed she owned. And for the first time in my life, I wondered what would happen if I didn't show up, if I stopped being useful, if I chose myself. The thought was terrifying, but underneath the fear, there was something else, something unfamiliar, something quietly powerful. Relief. The next morning, sunlight felt different, too bright, almost intrusive. I lay awake long before my alarm, replaying Alina's words in my head like a bruise I kept pressing. "If you're not going to babysit 4 kids, then don't even come." It echoed in every corner of my apartment, as if the walls themselves were judging me. I tried making coffee, but even the sound of the kettle boiling felt loud, aggressive, accusing. By the time my phone buzzed, my stomach had already twisted itself into a hard knot. I didn't want to look, but of course I did. The family group chat was exploding. "Mom. Lena, your sister is overwhelmed. You know she relies on you. Please stop creating drama." "Dad. We don't want fights before dinner. Just help your sister, okay? Alina. Thanks, Mom and Dad. At least some people understand what family means. Mom. Lena, apologize and confirm your babysitting. Then we can move on. Move on. The two words my family treated like magic glue, good enough to seal cracks without fixing anything. I didn't reply. Instead, I set the phone face down on the counter and inhaled deeply. My throat felt tight, like I was swallowing invisible stones. It wasn't the requests that hurt. It was the entitlement, the assumption that my time, my energy, my presence belonged to them. I showered slowly, letting the steam loosen the anxiety clinging to my skin, but the heaviness followed me like a shadow. Even while brushing my hair, I caught myself whispering, maybe I should just go. Old conditioning, old guilt, old habits of shrinking myself until I fit into the shape they needed. My thoughts were interrupted by a loud knock at my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened it, my best friend Zara stood there holding 2 coffees and wearing the expression of someone who already knew half the story. I figured your sister did something, she said, pushing past me without waiting. Your "I'm fine" text at 6 a.m. was a dead giveaway. I let out a helpless breath and collapsed onto the couch. You have no idea. She handed me a cup and sat beside me. Try me. So I told her everything. The late-night call. The demand. The ultimatum. The ban. Her eyebrows rose, so high they nearly touched her hairline. She said what? I nodded miserably. And your parents? They're siding with her. Zara stared at me for a long second, then let out a low whistle. Wow. They're really committed to using you as the family workhorse, huh? I laughed weakly. That's exactly how it feels. She sipped her coffee. Okay, let me get this straight. She has 4 kids. She chose to host a massive dinner. She wants you to watch them, so she can play hostess. And if you don't, you're banned. Yeah. And they think you are the problem? Apparently. Zara leaned back, arms crossed, eyes burning with protective fury. Lena, you do realize this is insane, right? I know, I whispered. But it's always been like this. I help, they praise her. I sacrifice, they call her responsible. I cover for her, they call her stressed. If I say no, I'm the villain. She softened. And you're tired. My throat tightened. So tired. Zara took my hand. Then don't go. The words hit me like cold water. Simple. Direct. Freeing. But terrifying. I can't just not go, I murmured. They'll explode. So let them, she said calmly. You've exploded silently for years. My eyes stung. I looked away, afraid my tears would embarrass me, but she gently turned my face back. Listen to me, she said. You don't exist to make everyone else's life easier. Your sister isn't entitled to your time. Your parents aren't entitled to your energy. And you, she squeezed my hand tighter, are allowed to say no. Allowed. The word landed softly, like something I needed to hear for a very long time. Maybe I was allowed. Maybe the world wouldn't fall apart if I stopped holding it together. A small, quiet thought whispered through me. What if I didn't show up, and it was okay? For the first time that morning, my breathing eased. Maybe saying no wasn't the problem. Maybe it was the beginning of a truth I'd been afraid to live. The rest of the day passed with that uneasy feeling you get before a storm hits. Not loud, not dramatic, just heavy. I tried to focus on work, but every email I typed blurred into the next. My mind kept circling back to the same sentence. If you're not going to babysit 4 kids, then don't even come. The words had settled somewhere deep, like dust I couldn't wipe away. Around noon, I made the mistake of checking my phone. Bad idea. The messages had doubled. Mom. Lena, please don't make me beg. Your sister is overwhelmed. Dad. Your mother is worried sick. Just help your sister. Please. Alina. I knew you'd turn this into drama. You always do. Then. Mom. We expect you here Sunday. Don't embarrass the family. Embarrass the family. There it was, the phrase they weaponized whenever they wanted obedience. I felt my pulse spike. Why was it always on me? Why was I responsible for their comfort, their image, their peace? Why was my no treated like a betrayal? I locked my phone and dropped it onto the couch like it had burned me. A few hours later, When the sun dipped lower and the fatigue of the day began to seep into my limbs, a new message appeared, this time a voice note from Alina. My stomach twisted. I pressed play, even though I knew I shouldn't. Her voice poured out, sharp and wounded, well-rehearsed victimhood. Lena, I honestly don't know why you're being like this. Do you even care about your nieces and nephews? They love you. They look up to you. Do you really want them to think you don't want to be around them? My breath hitched. She always used the kids. Always. She continued, her tone cracking at the edges, anger disguised as tears. You know I can't handle everything alone. I'm doing my best, okay? And you're acting like I'm asking for something huge. It's one dinner. One. Just watch them for a few hours. Why do you always make things difficult? The voice note ended with a shaky exhale. I stared at the screen, numb. It was never just a few hours. It was never one dinner. It was years of shouldering responsibilities that weren't mine. Years of being the helper, the fixer, the backup adult, the unpaid nanny. I pressed the heels of my hands against my eyes, trying to steady my breathing. I didn't want to hate her. I didn't even want to fight her. I just wanted to stop being treated like a tool. In the middle of that emotional spiral, my doorbell rang. Again. When I opened it, this time it was Eli, my neighbor, the quiet, soft-spoken guy who lived 2 doors down. We didn't talk much, but he always smiled politely in the hallway. He held a small Tupperware of still-warm pasta and shrugged awkwardly. You left your mailbox open earlier. You okay? I blinked, caught off guard by the simple kindness. Yeah, just family stuff. He nodded. The kind that drains your soul. A weak laugh slipped out. That obvious? You look like someone who hasn't slept in 3 days. He handed me the pasta before I could protest. Eat. It helps. And somehow it did. Not because of the food, but because someone saw me, saw the heaviness I was trying so hard to bury. When he left, I microwaved the pasta and sat by the window, staring out at the streetlights flickering on one by one. Kids played down the block. A couple walked their dog. Someone laughed loudly on a balcony. Life went on, indifferent to the storm brewing inside me. As I ate, a realization slowly sank in, quiet but unshakable. My sister wasn't asking for help. She was demanding access, control, obedience. And for the first time, it wasn't working. My no wasn't bending. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized I didn't want to bend anymore. Maybe Zara was right. Maybe I didn't have to go. Maybe I didn't have to play the role they wrote for me. For the first time all day, my chest loosened. Not much. Just a little. But enough. Enough to wonder. What if stepping away wasn't abandonment? What if it was freedom? By Saturday morning, the air in my apartment felt heavier than usual. Not in a dramatic way, just in that quiet, suffocating way guilt tends to settle, like dust on untouched furniture. I walked around in circles, trying to clean, trying to distract myself, but my mind kept drifting back, always back, to the group chat I still hadn't opened. I finally grabbed my phone. If I was going to be the villain in their story, I at least wanted to know what chapter they'd reached. I tapped the thread. It was worse than I expected. Mom. Lena, you're hurting your sister. She is crying. I can't believe you're doing this to her. Alina, I'm crying because you don't care about us. You only think about yourself. Fine. Stay home. Whatever. I'll explain to everyone tomorrow what actually happened. Dad, just apologize. You know she can't handle everything alone. There were more. So many more. Every message dripping with guilt. Every sentence laced with accusation. Every line designed to make me fold. I set the phone face down, my eyes stinging. They didn't even bother asking why I said no. They didn't ask if I was okay. They didn't consider that maybe, just maybe, I had limits too. To them, my boundaries weren't boundaries. They were inconveniences. My heartbeat thudded in my ears as I walked to the kitchen, pouring myself a glass of water I didn't even want. My hands trembled as I set the glass down. It hit the counter a little too loud. That's when my phone rang again. I didn't need to check the caller ID. Something inside me just knew. I picked up. Lena. Mom's voice, low, controlled, polished with that tone she used whenever she wanted something. I could practically hear her pinching the bridge of her nose. Hi, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I've been thinking, she began, which really meant I've been preparing a speech. And I want to remind you that family requires sacrifice. Of course. That old sermon. I do sacrifice, I whispered. You call this sacrifice, she snapped. Your sister has 4 children. 4. And you. Well, you have no husband, no kids, no obligations. You have the time. Why are you being so difficult? The words hit harder than I expected. No husband. No kids. No obligations. Translation, your life matters less. Mom, I have work. I have commitments. You have excuses, she corrected. My throat tightened. She continued, voice dripping with disappointment. You should feel ashamed. Your sister would do anything for you. I almost laughed. Anything? She couldn't even respect a simple no. Why is it always on me? I finally asked. My voice cracked. Why am I always the one expected to fix everything? Mom sighed loudly, as if I were exhausting her. Because you can handle it, Lena. You're strong. You always have been. There it was. The praise disguised as chains. The compliment wrapped around control. People love calling you strong right before they pile more weight on your back. Mom, I whispered. I can't do this anymore. She paused. Not in understanding. Not in concern. But in shock, like a chair had broken beneath her. What did you say? I said I'm not coming tomorrow. Silence. Then, I can't believe you, she breathed. After everything this family has done for you. After all the times we've been there for you, you choose this moment to be selfish? Fine. Stay home. Don't come. But don't expect sympathy when your sister tells everyone why you refused. Her voice softened suddenly, cutting deeper. I'm disappointed in you. Click. The call ended. My knees almost buckled. I slid down the side of the counter until I was sitting on the cold kitchen floor, arms wrapped around my knees. Tears blurred the tiles, falling silently, one after another. Not because she hurt me, but because, for the first time, I finally admitted something. This wasn't love. This was leverage. And I was tired, bone-deep tired, of being their convenient daughter. I cried until the heaviness emptied out of me, leaving something lighter in its place. Not happiness, not clarity, just a small, steady truth. I wasn't going tomorrow. And maybe, just maybe, that was the bravest thing I had ever done. By Sunday morning, the day of the big family dinner, I woke up surprisingly calm. Not light, not cheerful, but calm in that quiet way a lake settles after a storm. My eyes were still a little swollen from the night before, but my heartbeat wasn't racing the way it had all week. I lay there for a moment, staring at the ceiling, waiting for guilt to crash over me. It didn't. Instead, there was a steady, grounded clarity sitting right in the center of my chest. I wasn't going, and for once, the absence of panic felt like a kind of peace. I made breakfast slowly, toast, eggs, coffee with the cinnamon I only used on lazy mornings. I sat by the window, watching families load pies and foil-covered dishes into cars. I imagined Alina's house bustling with noise, her kids running in circles while she barked orders. And a new thought formed, one I wasn't prepared for. She'll survive without me. The realization was shocking. Not cruel, not triumphant, just honest. I had spent so many years being the helper that I forgot the world didn't collapse if I stepped back for a day. My phone buzzed. I closed my eyes and inhaled. I didn't want to look, but I knew I had to. The group chat was a battlefield. Alina, where are you? Mom said you still haven't apologized. People are arriving. This is so embarrassing. I hope you're happy. Mom, your sister is crying again. Is that what you wanted? Dad. Lena, stop this. Just come. They're overwhelmed. Please. 6 missed calls. 3 voice notes from Alina. 1 from Mom. I ignored them. Instead, I put the phone on silent and set it face down on the table like a line drawn in the sand. My hands were still trembling, but they were steadying too. Around noon, there was a knock, 3 quick taps, 1 soft. Zara. She let herself in and held up a bag of takeout. Okay, we're officially doing a protest brunch. A laugh burst out of me, unexpected, fragile, real. Zara, you didn't have to. She shrugged. Neither do you. And yet your family treats you like staff. I snorted. Exactly. We ate on the couch, legs tucked under blankets. I told her about the late-night breakdown, the phone call with Mom, how I'd finally said the words, "I'm not coming." She listened without interrupting, her expression shifting between outrage and protectiveness. When I finished, she squeezed my hand. "I'm proud of you." I blinked. "For disappointing my entire family?" "No," she said softly. "For finally showing up for yourself." The room felt warmer suddenly. After brunch, she left to pick up her niece, promising to come back in the evening for a debriefing session. I laughed again as she shut the door. For the first time, the apartment didn't feel like a punishment. It felt like mine, a place I chose, a place where I wasn't taking care of anyone but myself. I lit a candle, turned on a soft playlist, and curled up on the couch with a blanket. I was halfway through a comforting episode of some old sitcom when my phone buzzed again, this time not with anger, but with a single unexpected message. "Eli, the neighbor. If you need company or a break from family chaos, I've got extra cookies." A small smile tugged at my lips. Before I could reply, another message arrived, this one from the last person I expected. "Dad, your mom is upset with how things turned out. But I understand your side. I just wanted you to know that." My breath caught. He'd never said that before. Not to me. Not about Alina. A second message came right after. "I'm sorry." Just 2 words. Small, uneven, late. But real. And they landed exactly where I needed them. I set the phone down and exhaled slowly, feeling the last bit of tightness unravel. I wasn't at the dinner. I wasn't catering to 4 kids. I wasn't the villain. I was just Lena. Alone but not lonely. Hurting but healing. Missing the family I wished I had, but finally stepping away from the one that only took. Tomorrow, things would be messy. Complicated. There would be more messages, explanations, accusations. But today was the first day in years where I wasn't being used. And that was enough. Evening crept in quietly, the sky turning dusky lavender as I lay curled on the couch, blanket wrapped around me like armor that finally fit. The candle flickered softly on the coffee table, filling the room with a warm vanilla glow. It felt peaceful. Unfamiliar, but peaceful. Around 6 p.m., when the dinner at Alina's house would be at its peak, my phone buzzed again. This time only once. I picked it up reluctantly, bracing myself for more guilt. But it wasn't Mom. It wasn't Alina. It wasn't even Dad. It was a message from Evan, my cousin, the only one in the whole extended family who had ever made me feel seen growing up. "Evan. Hey, your sister told everyone you ditched the family dinner. But when I asked what happened, she got vague. So what's the real story?" Something in my chest cracked open just a little, a drop of validation in a desert of blame. I typed back slowly. She wanted me to babysit all 4 kids alone. I said no. She banned me from coming. His reply came within seconds. "Wow, that's messed up. I'm sorry, Lena. No justifying. No guilt tripping. No, but she's stressed. Just support." It was such a foreign feeling I had to blink a few times before it sank in. Another message followed. "If it helps, the kids have been chaotic. She's overwhelmed anyway. People noticed. And honestly, people are starting to ask questions." I let out a soft, shaky breath. For the first time all week, I felt something I hadn't dared to. I wasn't the villain this time. And maybe, just maybe, the truth was starting to seep through the cracks. I set the phone down and stood by the window, watching small clusters of neighbors returning home with leftovers and foil pans. Laughter echoed faintly up from the parking lot, and for once, it didn't feel like something I was missing out on. It just felt distant, like a chapter one had finally outgrown. A soft knock pulled me back. When I opened the door, Eli stood there with a plate of cookies wrapped in foil, cheeks slightly flushed from the cold. "I figured you might want these," he said, holding them out. "Fresh, slightly burned, but edible." A surprised smile tugged at my lips. "You didn't have to." He shrugged. "No one has to, but sometimes we choose to." The words hit deeper than he knew. I invited him in and we talked, nothing heavy at first, just jokes about burnt cookies and childhood holiday disasters. But eventually, the conversation drifted toward family, boundaries, and the fear of disappointing people who never stopped taking. "You did the right thing," he said quietly. Sometimes the bravest decision is choosing yourself, even when it looks like walking away. I swallowed hard. Brave. He called me brave. Most of my life, I had been called convenient, responsible, reliable, the helper, never brave. He stayed for a bit, then left with a soft goodnight. The apartment felt lighter when the door closed, like something toxic had finally been aired out. Later, as I curled back onto the couch, another notification lit up my phone. This time from Mom. We'll talk tomorrow. No anger. No guilt. No accusations. Just 4 words. Clipped, restrained, but different. Maybe she had time to sit with her own behavior. Maybe people at the dinner noticed the tension. Maybe Dad said something. Or maybe my absence spoke louder than they expected. Whatever the reason, for the first time I didn't feel dread. I felt steady. Because tomorrow, even if she tried to guilt-trip me again, I knew what I'd say. I knew what I wouldn't accept. I knew I wouldn't fold. Not this time. I wasn't perfect. I wasn't fearless. But I was done being used. As I turned off the lights and slipped into bed, a quiet truth settled deep in my bones. Family isn't defined by obligation. It's defined by respect. And in choosing myself today, I didn't lose a family. I lost a burden. And I gained me.